In the previous 5 parts of this video series, I have been alluding to a deep truth, and I was reluctant to say what it was until the groundwork was laid. You see, what I am going to say is unbelievable, and I am not sure that I will be very convincing. However, I was commissioned by someone to introduce the deep truth, and even though I fear that I am not even close to being the best choice, I will see this task to completion. In Part 1, we learned about swarms that form when individual creatures come together and act as a larger entity that is separate from any one of the individuals. No single creature formed the swarm, and no single creature determines its actions. In Part 2, we learned about crystals and other complex structures that form from smaller components that are not in any way aware of the larger structure. Snowflakes and termite cathedrals are beautifully complex structures that were not designed by any of their components. No water molecule designed the snowflake, and no termite designed the cathedral. Instead, they are what science calls an emergent property. In Part 3, we looked at archetypes, which are structures built into the fabric of the universe. Archetypes as universal properties appear in many times and many places. Spheres, spirals, and parabolas are mathematical archetypes that appear in all places because our universe favors them. Lately, humanity has discovered that the archetypes of the universe also include complex or even infinitely complex shapes such as snowflakes or the Mandelbrot set. It even seems to be the case that the chemistry and structure of life are archetypes that will appear in all times and all places where the conditions are right, because the universe favors them. In Part 4, we looked how a number of times in Earth's history, simpler creatures have joined together to make more complex composite organisms. Every cell in every animal is the result of several organisms joining together 2 billion years ago. And every cell in every plant is the result of a different joining together 1 billion years ago. Lichens are yet another example of an extremely successful class of organisms that are a composite of simpler organisms. Nature has shown us that she likes to join creatures together to make even more successful and complex creatures. In Part 5, we looked at how humans are composed of many different organisms with completely independent DNA, known as the microbiome. In fact, the number of cells in any given human with DNA not inherited from that person's parents is far greater than the number of cells in a person that are inherited from the person's parents. In other words, the bacteria that live inside of us and help us to live, and even to think, far outnumber the cells that we consider to be our own. If we put the first 5 parts together, we can see that the universe has complex forms built into its fabric that result in extremely complex physical objects, such as snowflakes forming spontaneously. One class of physical objects that appears over and over again is increasingly complex living beings. 2 billion years ago, 2 types of bacteria joined together to make a composite cell known as a eukaryote. At least 46 separate times in evolutionary history, these eukaryotes joined together to make multicellular organisms, including plants and animals. Eukaryotes later incorporated another type of bacteria to make green plants. One of the most successful organisms on Earth are lichens, which are yet another joining together of simpler organisms to make a more complex creature. So, what is the deep truth? The deep truth is this. There is another class of composite creatures that evolved perhaps 10,000 to 50,000 years ago, and they may be even older still. But very few people are aware of them. Why are these creatures so poorly known? Are they very small and thus cannot be seen easily? The truth is the opposite. These creatures are so large that they cannot be seen with human eyes. Their lifespans are so long, and their actions are so subtle, that humans look right past them. How can this be? How can we not be aware of these very large and long-lived creatures? The reason is we live inside of them. You see, we humans are cells inside of these titans. Our thoughts combine together to make up their thoughts, and the summation of our actions make up their actions. In a sense, humans form into very large swarms, and just as no bird is in control of a swarm, no human is in control of a titan. Even stranger, many of the thoughts that we think of as our own are actually the thoughts of the titans. When bacteria joined together 2 billion years ago to make the cells that would evolve into animals and humans, they lost their ability to act independently. But this was not a loss because they became much more than they had been before. Similar to the bacteria joining together so long ago, humans cannot function unless they are part of a titan. A human who was born separate from a titan would be even less smart than a chimpanzee. And an adult human who were to be severed from a titan would go mad and would probably have a greatly reduced lifespan. Titans are vastly more intelligent than humans, but we cannot see this intelligence for several reasons. Firstly, much of what we think of as our own individual thoughts are actually fragments of what the titans have thought and created. Secondly, titans, although much more intelligent than humans, act on much larger time scales and are thus extremely slow-moving. Thirdly, since humans are cells in the bodies of titans, any action that a titan takes will appear to be the action of many humans over a period of many years. The concept that we humans are cells in much larger titans is difficult to believe. So many people will ask, why should I care that I am part of a titan? How will it affect my life? How will it change how I view the world? The simplest answer is that it really does not matter whether you believe that you are part of a titan, because they will exist and carry on whether you believe in them or not. And your life will not be any different than it was yesterday if you ignore their existence. However, knowing that the titans in this world are with us will start you down the path of understanding that you are part of something larger and greater than yourself. Your actions have repercussions and meaning that are far greater than your short and limited life. There are huge forces for good and huge forces for evil that are swirling around you, and you have been largely oblivious to them all of your life. Even when you caught a glimpse of them, you thought to yourself, there is no way that anyone is guiding what I see, so it must be chance or coincidence. In the past, people did not understand the titans as well as we do now. But humans in the past were more in sync with the actions of the titans, and this knowledge gave them substantial purpose and meaning. In the coming decades and centuries, we will rediscover that our actions are part of much larger beings, and it will restore to us a purpose that we have forgotten, and it will restore to us a worldview that we concluded centuries ago must be naive. Modern humans have come to believe that they are alone in an uncaring universe, but this simply is not true, because we are cells in something larger. Our thoughts and feelings are components of a much larger plan. To many people, the deep truth that we are cells in enormous superorganisms known as titans will seem like fantasy, but to the contrary, it is reasoned science. The titans are far greater than us humans, but they still follow the laws of nature and the laws of evolution. They live far longer than us humans, but like us, they are born and they die. Like us humans, they can be killed before their time. Although the titans are much more intelligent than us humans, they are still fallible, and they can still make mistakes. The reality of the titans will seem like fantasy to nearly everyone, but now you have heard the deep truth, and it will not leave you. Even if you reject it as absurd, you will remember the idea and it will grow inside of you. Some of you will start connecting your experiences together and realize that the titans lie behind what you see in the world. Others of you will laugh at the deep truth, but you will pass on the foolish idea to others, and it will spread. Some of you will actually dream dreams and have visions, because because the Titans have always spoken to humanity. They are very difficult to perceive, but there have always been those humans who can hear them. In no way am I the first person to have spoken about the Titans. You have seen stories about the Titans on television and in movies, and you have read about them in books. Humanity's vision is about to change, and we are waking up to the deep truth. If you continue to watch the Words of Cherasy, you will be given hints of what the Titans are doing and how they impact our daily lives, but it might not be told in a way that you would expect. The Titans are slow and subtle, but also extremely profound. Learning about them will be a challenge for all of us.